How's it going, Star Seekers? I hope you're all doing alright, and welcome back to the channel. If you want to become a Star Seeker, make sure to hit that subscribe and bell button to be notified of new Nintendo Switch reviews I publish every few days. So today we're going to be taking a look at a game called Bezier 2nd Edition. It's a neon-infused twin-stick shooter where you pilot the Salvator defense craft through a virtual void pack full of enemies as you strive to defeat a big mean-looking face known as Domos. Bezier 2nd Edition features some high-tempo gameplay and an awesome soundtrack to blast along to, but does it do enough to distance itself from twin-stick shooters such as Geometry Wars, which it will likely be compared to? In this review, I aim to answer that question. So alongside the recently released Death Ray Manta, on the surface Bezier 2nd Edition is just another twin-stick shooter, but getting into the game you'll find a number of gameplay features which set it aside from the rest. To kick things off, you can take a look at the game's rather helpful help menu to familiarise yourself with some of the basic gameplay mechanics, though it's not overly complex and you can pick up most of it just by playing. Upon starting a new game, you get to select a difficulty, and higher difficulties affect things like enemy health, movement speed and the damage they deal, as well as the amount of XP and points you earn from killing them. In addition to these things, you'll also encounter different types of enemy depending on the difficulty you play on. Now, being a bit of a fanny, I first dove into the game on easy mode as I expected it to smash me up in a matter of seconds if I tried anything harder, but I found easy mode surprisingly tame, and I was able to complete it first time, making Bezier a very accessible game for more casual gamers or those just wanting to enjoy the gameplay experience without having to worry about one wrong move ending the run. So getting into gameplay then, Bezier features the familiar twin-stick shooter setup where your left thumbstick controls your ship whilst the right shoots in the direction that you aim it. Holding any of the face buttons will activate auto fire, which temporarily replaces your standard fire, but you have to use this sparingly as it will quickly overheat and stop working until it cools back down again. Now to start with, I'll quickly cover off the HUD, which does look a little busy at first. From left to right, first we have the XP meter, which will slowly fill as you kill enemies, and leveling up grants you all sorts of permanent upgrades, a list of which can be found in your stats sheet on the main menu. Next we have the ouch meter, and you can think of this as your health meter. Taking damage from enemies will reduce the ouch meter, and losing all of your health will end your run. But green ouch turrets which spawn every so often drop health pickups when destroyed. Next we have the oomph meter, which fills as you gather tiny gems dropped by enemies, and filling this meter increases your score multiplier, your ship's movement speed and weapon cooldown. Finally we have the level timer, which counts down to 0, at which point the level ends. It's important to note though that you have to destroy all shields in a level before it ends, otherwise it's an instant game over. Now overlaid on top of the play area is the radar, which feels a little unusual to start with, but you'll soon get used to it. Enemies are shown as red dots on the radar, and you'll learn to use it to group up enemies and destroy a bunch of them at once. Destroying enemies next to each other creates a chain, increasing the score you get from them, and chaining enemies also causes explosions which destroys enemies nearby, with larger chains creating bigger explosions. In addition to the red enemy markers, the radar also displays green markers leading to ouch turrets and yellow markers which appear leading to shields. So Bezier features a wide variety of enemies, each with their own movement patterns and attack patterns, and some enemies even cause status effects, leaving behind areas which drain your oomph meter or mute you, stopping you from firing your weapons. As you play through the levels in Bezier, each one of them is set to a piece of music, and aside from these tunes being pretty awesome, the enemies you face also change as the music transitions between different tones. Calmer musical tones tend to feature slower moving enemies, while faster paced sections are punctuated by a slew of enemies, and I thought this was a really cool feature. Now your main goal in Bezier, aside from surviving of course, is to destroy enemies called shields which spawn as you progress through levels. Shields are large static enemies and they come in a wide variety of forms, each of which requires a specific strategy to destroy. You have some shields which are orbited by impenetrable barriers which you need to carefully navigate inside of to hit them. Others have coloured cubes hanging off them and you can only damage the shield by entering the coloured area which matches its hue. And some shields have a tail which must be destroyed before it can be damaged. I really like the way in which these shields were implemented, and part of the fun and challenge of the game is working out how to destroy shields which you've never encountered before. Now, after destroying shields or certain groups of enemies, glowing yellow orbs called stars will be dropped, and collecting these allows you to activate upgrades seen across the bottom of the screen. The first two upgrades are Boost, which increases your ship's speed, and Blaster, which upgrades your standard weapon, reducing its cooldown, increasing its damage, and eventually causing you to fire 3 streams of bullets. The next 6 upgrades are special abilities, and to equip any of these you have to collect multiple stars, with each star moving your selection across by 1. While the Boost and Blaster skills can be upgraded multiple times, you can only have one active ability at once, and each ability offers a different benefit, such as freezing all enemies nearby you, creating a bubble around you which enemies can't enter, or firing out a barrage of missiles which damage groups of enemies as they explode. The Firefly upgrade, which requires 9 stars to activate, can also be upgraded multiple times, and each level of this upgrade spawns a small drone which will automatically target and fire on nearby enemies. Now, I haven't yet worked out how to activate something called the Mark of Cain, but collecting 10 stars activates Enrage mode, which maxes out your ouch and oomph meters, allowing you to dish out tons of damage and making you invincible for a period of time. So once you get into the last 20 seconds of the in-game timer, the game's main baddie known as Domos will spawn, and his big angry face will chase you around the arena until the timer reaches 0. You're unable to damage Domos until the final stage of the game, so you just have to keep your distance from him and destroy the waves of enemies that he throws at you. After successfully evading Domos, the stage will end, and you'll then get to choose which of 2 stages you want to play next. Bezier's 14 stages are laid out in the form of branching paths, with each stage featuring different music tracks and enemies to face, so you'll need to play through the game multiple times to play them all. Now, after your first completion of the game, you'll unlock Endurance mode, which challenges you to fight your way through waves of enemies. In each wave, new shields will spawn, and you simply have to survive for as long as possible to rack up as many points as you can. Completing an endurance game will then unlock daily mission mode, where you also have to earn as many points as you can in a single level, and each of Bezier's game modes have online leaderboards where you can vie for the top spot against other players around the world. So in all, I actually had a really great time playing Bezier, and I'd go so far as saying it's one of the best twin stick shooters that I've played in a long time. I found its mixture of fast paced action, wide variety of enemies, and an upgrade system which encourages you to save your stars for more powerful abilities, provided a very enjoyable and well thought out gameplay experience, and its high score system and multiple level paths encourage replayability. When it comes to visuals, while simple, I'm a fan of neon, so this game didn't disappoint, and surprisingly I experienced absolutely no slowdown on the Nintendo Switch in either handheld or docked mode. I did however experience this mental light show when I left the game paused for a while, and this caused the frame rate to plummet and become unplayable, but hopefully this bug will be quickly ironed out when the game releases. Audio wise, whilst the sound effects are pretty standard, there is some nice voiceover in the game explaining how the virtual world that you found yourself in came to be. But it's the game's soundtrack which really stands out, featuring an awesome mix of electronica and classical music, and I think Bezier's soundtrack is definitely in my top 10 soundtracks of this past year. When it comes to the issues that I encountered with Bezier, there are really very few to mention. I think the biggest issue I encountered was with trying to press the face buttons to activate auto fire, as well as aiming and shooting with a thumbstick. Although you can only do one or the other, I'm not sure why they didn't just bind it to a trigger button, since both the trigger and bumper buttons perform the same function. Aside from this, the background in levels is permanently black, and I did experience an unusual floaty effect sometimes when explosions knocked me back. I also would have liked to have faced some challenging bosses at the end of each level, instead of just evading old angry face until he gave up chasing me. Overall, Bezier is a great twin stick shooter, and if you're a fan of these type of games, I highly recommend picking it up. So now let's get on to rating the game. Now I give games a rating between 1 and 5 stars, and this is based on my own personal opinion on the quality and quantity of a title's gameplay and whether I think it offers value for money to potential buyers. For a rating, I'm going to be giving Bezier 2nd edition 4 out of 5 stars. With its awesome soundtrack, tight twin stick gameplay mechanics and highly addictive gameplay loop, Bezier 2nd Edition is a title which to me stands out amongst the others in the genre, and I look forward to future titles from developer Philip Back. Bezier 2nd Edition releases on the 21st of January, and you can pick it up from the UK Switch eShop where it's usually priced at £19.99, or from the US eShop for $19.99, though both stores currently have a huge 75% pre-release discount. Alternatively, the first version of the game is also available on Steam. And so we come to the end of this in-depth review of Bezier 2nd Edition. Make sure to hit that like button if it helped you out, and let me know your thoughts and opinions on the game in the comment section below. I want to give a huge shout out to the patrons who are going that extra mile to support me and the channel, and if you're interested in becoming a patron and gaining access to additional behind the scenes videos, you'll find a link in the description box below. As always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with my latest reviews, and jump onto the Starseekers Discord server to say hello. For now though, I just want to thank you all once again for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.